Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children, sons and daughters of God. Thank you so much for joining in. For me, it's morning here. It's early in the morning. It's a new day. So let's make good use of our time. Bruno Groening urged people to use time wisely, that our time here on this beautiful earth is so short, and that it's so important to use that time well. I read an amazing quote of Bruno's the other day. I don't have it handy, so I'm going to have to paraphrase it. But in essence, Bruno Groening said that it's here on this earth, in this body, and in the earth itself, that God reveals God's full glory. If we really reflect on that and take that to heart, what that means is that in this body, on this earth, we have an amazing, amazing opportunity to really come to know God, to really come to know the glory of God. So let's take a minute or two together, ask to tune in, ask, ask Bruno, ask God to help us receive this healing energy and to know, not just intellectually, but to know in our hearts and souls the glory of our Maker, the glory of God. All right, so Bruno Groening said, if you want to experience the divine, you must strive for it. If you want to experience the divine, you must strive for it. And so some of you know I've started studying a little German. So the original German of that sentence is, if you want the divine experience, you must strive after that. The divine experience, it can also be translated as to see God. If you want to experience the divine, I believe what Bruno Groening is talking about is to live in the moment by moment, not just like a firework explosive divine experience, which are wonderful. I believe what he's talking about is to feel connected to God moment by moment. If we want that, he says we have to strive after it. You know, when I was first taught this path, in essence, what I was taught was have faith, give away the illness, go to community hour, tune in, and trust in Bruno. And while all those things are helpful, what I wasn't taught was this very active, vigorous component of the path of striving, of engaging my will. Bruno spoke about wanting the divine energy with the same or similar intensity of desire that we want of sexual desire, wanting the good. There's this very active, vigorous piece to this path. There's a lot of grace. There's a lot of help. As I like to say it, God and Bruno have their part, and we have our part. Bruno Groening once said, to paraphrase it here, He said, um, don't believe that it depends on the omnipotent power of God or the little person such as me, myself. It depends entirely upon you. That's a paraphrase, but that's the essence of what he said. So, in essence, there's all this help available. There's the omnipotent power of God. There's a fierce spiritual warrior, friend, healer, such as Bruno Groening, available to help us. And we have our part. We have our essential part. It's like the omnipotent power of God all around us. Our friend Bruno Groening, he said he's with us always. And thanks to this gift of free will, we can actually say no to that. We can say no to the good. And apparently in the past we did. Big time. Not just us as individuals, but the human race as a whole. And so now we're in this process of undoing all the times we said yes to evil and no to God. Bruno Groening said, let us lead our common fight against evil. Let us walk the path together that really leads all human beings to the good. The German word for fight is Kampf, which means struggle, battle, war, fight, a very intense challenge. So we don't want to be, I don't want to engender fear, and um, according to Bruno Groening's teaching, we're all engaged in a very intense struggle, battle with evil, individually and collectively. So, what is the work of Bruno Groening all about? Bruno Groening said it's just about one thing, really, that which is purely divine, which is inside a human being, and that is his soul. To save this soul, dear friends, this purely divine soul, that it is not grasped by Satan's claws, that is what this is all about. Bruno Groening said, the good will prevail. That's what I consider to be the good news. And actually, what I consider to be the good news, the same good news that Jesus came to share, that the good will prevail on this planet. And Bruno Groening spoke about that very, very directly. Human beings can also serve God by being convinced of the triumph of good in the world. The more people there are who want the good, the sooner it can be brought about by God. Your thoughts, wishes, and ideas all shape the future conditions on this earth. So the good news is the good will prevail. The sometimes challenging, frustrating news is that we have to become part of, I don't want to say have to help that come about sooner and to free ourselves sooner. We have to literally comf, struggle, fight, battle with evil to both free ourselves and to free others. First and foremost, to free ourselves. Again, Bruno Groening said the more people that want the good, the sooner it can be brought about. That means we can literally be a part of bringing about an end to all evil on this planet, bringing it about, helping it to happen sooner. And for that to happen, Bruno Groening said, I'm just going to look at the original German, it's clear. Do you want to experience the divine? Or do you want the divine experience? If so, you must strive after that. In some ways, this is one of my least favorite aspects of Bruno Groening's teaching. I'm also very grateful for it, but what I don't like is I just want life to be easy and simple. I don't want to strive. I just want to, I just want to receive and just do nothing. And life doesn't seem to work that way. There are teachers out there who say that it does, and they tend to charge a lot of money to deliver their message. So we might want to be cautious with such people who say there's no necessity to make effort. Here's what Bruno Groening said about our life here on Earth. He said, do not play with life, but in life. Life is no game. The game lies within life. Live a well-ordered life. That means live according to the rules of life. The real game of life has rules to it. One could call this life on Earth a play school. In order to be able to play the right way, you have to be proficient in the rules. The good, the divine, lies within the game. As long as you stick to the rules, it is a true game. But whenever you bring into play even just one bad thought, then it is no longer a game. Only one bad thought is enough to end the game straight away. Our life here on Earth is, according to Bruno Groening, a play school. And it has certain rules, which I believe the teachings of Bruno Groening to be the very clear, simple explanation of those rules. And once we've taken on evil, this process of freeing ourselves from evil, it's not always fun. It's quite painful. In fact, Bruno Groening said, the one thing I cannot do is spare you from the regulation pain. So it's a play school and it's meant to be joyous. And when we step outside the rules, it isn't joyous. And then we're in this process on this path of getting back into it being a play, being a game, being joyful. And and the and Bruno Groening said, do you want to experience the divine or do you want the divine experience? Then you must strive after that. So if we're not having if life isn't a playful game all the time, we violated the rules, either in the present or the past. And now we're in the process of what Bruno called sanctification, freeing ourselves from evil. And that part's not always fun. In fact, it can be, Bruno called it a kampf, a struggle, a fight, a battle, a war. Bruno Groening, I have to paraphrase here. He said something to the effect of, evil will not easily let itself be put aside. It will do everything in its power to pull people off the good path. That's a paraphrase, but that's the essence of what he said. Bruno Groening said, my battle is against evil. My life is God. So we've been focusing on the battle, the kampf, the war, the struggle, and streben, that's the German word, to strive, to aspire and engaging our will for this, honestly, this very intense process we're engaged in of freeing ourselves from evil with the help of God and the help of Bruno. But as we're engaged in this kampf, this struggle, this battle, let's also remember the goal. Bruno Groening said, "My life is God." If we want to see the glory of God, all we need to do is look out the window and look at glorious nature. And to imagine what paradise on this earth was like and will be like, why we're doing this. Because sometimes it's so painful. Sometimes it can seem hopeless. And that's where nature is such a gift. We can just go be in nature and feel God's presence, feel grace. And while it is a struggle, a battle, a war, we also need to keep our sense of humor. Bruno Groening said, "He who is lost," I'm paraphrasing, "who's lost his sense of humor has lost everything." Bruno called this a play school. And it's sometimes a very intense play school. And so it's, for me personally, I'm on this path. What I'm learning is it's this balance of being intense. Like, this is a battle, this is a struggle. I need to engage my will, and cultivating joy. In fact, Bruno said we need to cultivate a good sense of humor and cultivating a sense of play. One of the most, one of my, a spiritual idea that touches me very deeply, I don't claim to understand it, is the Hindu idea that God created this universe out of a sense of play. The word is lila, play or sport. I don't claim to understand that. But what if? What if all of life is a glorious, joyful game? That's not to deny the painful parts of it. Bruno Groening is very clear and direct that our time here on earth is a play school. It's a game. On a material point of view, people talk about being successful as the meaning of life. And what if they're right, but just not in the sense of being successful means acquiring certain things? What if being successful is about really learning how to play and dance at the game of life? And part of that is how we face challenge. So, again, we've looked at some very intense topics today. And so I'd like to close with some good news. Um, Here's what Bruno Groening said. One moment while I find it. Well, I'm just going to have to paraphrase it. Bruno said, we cannot imagine, fathom all the good that God has in store for us. So let's really take that to heart. Yes, life is hard sometimes. Yes, life is challenging. And that the divine God has so much good in store for us that we literally cannot, right now, cannot comprehend it. Many people look forward to heaven, and people have different ideas of what that is, what it'll be like. But the one thing that all these visions and yearnings of heaven that we have in common across the board, different belief systems, different religions, is that it's unspeakably good. So let's keep in mind what we're fighting for, what we're struggling for. Something unspeakably beautiful, unspeakably good. And that's what I consider to be the best news ever. The good news. That's what the word gospel means, the good news. That there's something unspeakably good in store for all of us. And Bruno Groening points out that we need to strive for it. So we'll close where we began. Do you want the divine experience, or do you want to experience the divine? Then you must strive after that. I wish you a day of good striving, good playing, vigilance, and joy. Take care, divine creations, divine marvels. Look forward to seeing and feeling you very soon. Much love.